Welcome to my channel and to tonight's death row dinners video, where I will be eating the last meal of somebody who has been on death row and then telling you how they ended up there. For his final meal, James David Autry picked a Dr. Pepper, a hamburger and fries. So I went to a lot of people's favourite places for mine, McDonald's. So I got small fries and a hamburger, which I'll be honest, really does not look particularly appetizing, but there we go. It also feels stone cold, so I'm actually going to go and stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds. You might be wondering why I picked McDonald's over many other burger places I could have chosen, and the reason is that it's a really popular chain and also it's one of the cheaper ones, and I'm filming this at lunchtime, so I didn't want anything massive. I have not had Dr. Pepper in forever. Okay, let's give this a go. I did get a cheeseburger. Technically, it's a hamburger, but I'm really not a fan of a plain hamburger. I do like the cheese on it. Just in case you've never seen the interior of a McDonald's burger before. There's really not a lot I can say about it. Having microwaved it so it's warm, the fries are quite nice, but I am more of a big, thick chip girl. And the burger, it's not that bad. Well, I think you've seen quite enough of me munching on this. I'll pass you on to another version of me to tell you a bit more about the man who picked this for his last meal. James David Autry was born on the 27th of August 1954 in Potter County to parents James Jim Autry and Shirley Steckel. He was one of 6 children and not the only one to get himself in trouble with the law. His home life was turbulent, and Autry recalled that when I was little and got in trouble, my dad would whip the hell out of me. The more he whipped me, the more I'd do. I guess I was retaliating. He ended up living with his father and his stepmother, Janice Autry. His home life was turbulent, and Autry ended up running away when he was 13. He was sent to reform school as both a runaway and a shoplifter. His first arrest for stealing being at the age of only 11, but stated that he had also been responsible for the theft of several cars. Autry remained at the Texas Youth Facility at Gatesville until he was 17, earning his high school diploma there. Autry managed about 4 months in the real world before getting into trouble again. He used drink and drugs because they made him feel happier. He claimed he got drunk and went into a truck stop, but that the clerk took his gun away from him, and so he didn't shoot anybody. This still earned him a 5-year stint in jail for assault with intent to rob
in Potter County. In October 1973, Autry was once again released. This time he only managed to stay out of trouble for 2 months. He'd gotten a job as a maintenance worker at a racket club, and one night, again fueled by drink, he burgled it. This resulted in an 8-year jail sentence, good behaviour whilst inside earning him an early release. In January of 1980, Autry moved to Port Arthur in order to try and make a fresh start. He secured a job working as a maintenance labourer for a propane factory. On April 20th, 1980, Autry and his roommate, John Alton Sandifer, went to a local sack and pack convenience store. The clerk on duty that day was 43-year-old Shirley Drouset. She was shot through the head when she caught Autry attempting to steal a 6-pack of beer. The mother of 5 was shot between the eyes whilst trying to get Autry to give her the $2.70 that the beer was worth. Autry returned to the sack and pack after the shooting to take care of 2 men who had found Shirley's body. 43-year-old Joseph Broussard, a Catholic priest, died at the scene. When police arrived, they found him lying on his back, shot through the head and neck, a telephone in his hand. Shirley, dying, was sitting by a grocery display, a gunshot to her forehead. 30-year-old Athanasios Sfaras, a mariner from Greece, was found badly injured in the car park. He survived his injuries, but was left severely brain damaged. Neither of these crimes went to trial. The till was switched off, and the transaction registry showed the last sale through it had been for a pack of cigarettes. It had not been robbed, and neither had Shirley or Joseph, despite both having wallets containing cash on them. Approximately 4 hours later, John R. Sandifer arrived at the Port Arthur police station with his 2 sons, Mark and John Alton. John Alton gave a statement, resulting in his arrest and a warrant being issued for Autry. A .32 and a .38 caliber pistol had been brought in by the Sandifers, and these were seized as evidence. Mark Sandifer stated he had taken them from Autry shortly before the 3 men attended the station. 2 officers, Gary Martin and Bill Edmonds, picked up the outstanding warrant over the radio and headed to the trailer house Autry and John Alton shared. At 1:45 a.m, Autry was arrested and consented to a search of his home. During this time, Shirley had died from the gunshot to her head, and at 3 a.m, Autry was brought to the station for questioning. 3 detectives, Waylon Hughes, R.B. White, and Khalees Blanchard questioned Autry about the shootings, but he refused to make any statement. After 2.5 hours, they took a break. Whilst the 3 detectives went to get breakfast, another officer, Gary Martin, saw that Autry was alone in an interrogation cubicle. He went in to talk with him, and at about 6:30 a.m, Autry signed a written statement and was then taken to a cell. Gary Martin was unaware that the previous interrogation conducted by the 3 detectives had ended with Autry providing a written statement that did not incriminate him and stating, "I have nothing else to say, because every time I say something or give a fact, they say I'm a liar." Autry's defence won a motion to prevent the written statement from being admitted as evidence, as officers had not honoured Autry's first signed statement, in which he exercised his right to remain silent. At 1 p.m, Autry was granted his request for a phone call, which he made to his mother. This was overheard by Officer John Anderson, who later testified in court with regards to what was said during this call. Autry is alleged to have said that he had gone into a store to rob it, but things had gone bad. He started shooting and then he just couldn't stop. He finished the call by saying that his mother shouldn't worry because he would get out of these charges. Autry's counsel moved to have this made inadmissible, as it was tainted by the illegality of the statement taken by Gary Anderson, but this motion was not granted. Autry claimed that he was high at the time on Valium, marijuana and alcohol, and did not pull the trigger. It was actually his friend, John Sandifer, who fired the shot which killed Shirley. Sandifer was also charged but made a plea bargain, accepting 25 years for a separate charge of burglary and released on parole. Autry said, "I feel bad that those people died, but I didn't do it. I really couldn't believe it. I believe he should be here in my place." Autry was also offered a plea bargain, but turned this down, and it was on Sandifer's testimony that he was largely convicted. John Richard Sandifer explained to the jury that he and his son Mark had gone to a trailer house in the late evening on April 20th, 1980, where Mark obtained 2 pistols which belonged to him and picked up his brother, John Alton, that they took John Alton and the pistols to the police station. Mark testified that around noon on April 20th, 1980, he loaned his 1978 El Camino to his brother, John Alton. Mark explained to the jury that he did not see his brother again until around 9 p.m. that night, when he saw the car parked at a sack and pack, with Autry standing by it. Angry that his brother had been gone with his car for so long, he stopped and asked where his brother was. Autry replied that he was in the store. John Alton then exited the store and got into the El Camino. He told Mark to follow him to the trailer. Autry got into the car with Mark and Mark's wife and children, and they followed the El Camino out. Mark testified that he did not see a body in the parking lot when he left. He related that Autry then asked him to stop the car. When he did so, Autry got out, pulling a chrome-plated stainless steel pistol, and ran back towards the store which 2 men were approaching. Mark followed the El Camino to his brother's trailer, then took the car whilst his wife drove his car and left. Finally, he described, as did his father, the trip to the trailer where John Alton and the guns were picked up. He added that when he asked Autry for his father's guns, Autry pulled his father's chrome-plated pistol from his pocket and gave it to him. He explained that Autry reluctantly produced the second pistol, but told me that he wasn't going to give it to me because he knew that I knew. He knew that I knew that he killed some people. He told me that he killed 4 people. He said that I just killed 4 people and you know it. Mark then identified State's exhibits as the 2 guns. Mark's wife Judy confirmed Mark's testimony regarding their arriving at the Sack and Pack store at around 9 p.m. and Autry's return to the store. Whilst in prison, Autry gave several interviews. His manner and demeanour during these was noted as polite and, at times, almost friendly. Autry said that he would prefer a fresh start to execution, but was unable to say how he might go about making the necessary changes to his life. He said he would tell troubled kids that prison ain't nothing fun, but that he knew they wouldn't listen. "You can't give kids advice," Autry said. "You've got to help them in more ways than talking. You've got to be with them, spend time with them, show them what is right and wrong." Autry made several attempts to appeal his conviction, arguing that parts of his confession were given under duress as a result of police beatings. He also attested that Sandifer, a crucial eyewitness, was not granted immunity and therefore did not present the correct version of events which would have confirmed Autry's claim that the murders did not take place during the course of a robbery or an attempted robbery. If this was proven to be the case, the murder would no longer be regarded as a capital crime. Sandifer refused to testify on Autry's behalf due to the fear that his account would then be used against him. He also argued that the evidence of the phone call to his mother was entered illegally. He also attested that there was insufficient evidence that he, Autry, committed the murder or that it took place during an attempted robbery. These were all denied, and the sentence upheld. Autry actually sued to have his execution televised, but this was rejected. He also challenged the proportionality of his sentence, arguing that it was too harsh compared to the sentence handed to those who had committed similar crimes. He also reiterated that Sandifer was the one responsible for the shooting deaths. He attested that his defence counsel had been ineffectual, failing to interview witnesses and to properly prepare them for the sentencing hearing. This was dismissed, as Autry's mother had indeed been present during proceedings, but Autry himself had made it clear that he did not want her to testify. He also told his counsel that if he himself testified, he would ask the jury for the death penalty. On October 5th, 1983, Autry was strapped to a gurney, a saline solution running into his veins, when a stay of execution came through from Supreme Court Justice Byron E. White. This came through at around 11:30 p.m, just half an hour before the scheduled time for Autry's execution. On October 17th, Attorney General Jim Mattox asked for the stay to be repealed. James David Autry, nicknamed Cowboy whilst in prison because of his love of country music and Western novels, had begun a correspondence with a 32-year-old Dallas woman called Shirley Tadlock 4 months before the final date of execution set for him. His final words were directed towards her, simply, "I love you." The pair had exchanged between 75 and 80 letters during that time, and Shirley admitted that she felt sorry for him after his previous stay of execution in October, when he was strapped to the gurney for half an hour before the stay came through. Her husband and family were supportive of this correspondence with Autry. On March 14th, 1984, James David Autry was executed by lethal injection. He gazed steadily at Shirley whilst the drugs were administered and took effect. For 6 minutes, he showed no visible reaction. Then he opened his palm, looked at the warden, and shrugged. Within the next minute, the lethal injection took full effect. Shirley spoke to him softly throughout the process, reassuring him that she loved him and noting that he had that Autry smile when he died. Shirley Drouset's son, Thomas Neal, said, "I feel good. I feel a lot better than him staying alive. I feel like justice has been done because anybody who kills someone else, like he killed my mother, well, they should die." Autry's father felt a great sense of bitterness, saying, "I demand that the people who killed JD stand trial. These people have got to be stood up in front of their peers. My book, they don't know my book, says vengeance is mine." Autry's execution has since been used by attorneys to reinforce arguments against the death penalty, stating that it was a cruel and unusual punishment, as Autry took 15 minutes to actually die once the injection was administered. As ever, thank you for watching this video. I want to leave you not with one name, but with 3. I don't want you to go away from this video remembering James David Autry. I want you to remember the people he killed. Shirley Drouset, who was simply doing her job. Joseph Broussard, who was simply trying to help. And Athanasios Sfares, who, whilst he did not die, was left with severe brain damage, affecting him for the rest of his life.